The members of the Jedi Order have served as keepers of the peace for millennia, fighting against the enemies of the light in order to preserve the prosperity of the Republic as servants of the Force and guardians across the wider galaxy. By their side in this holy mission is their own individual lightsaber, the sacred weapon of the Jedi for years on end, which each knight constructs as a Padawan in order to suit their specific tastes, and construct a tool that would live beside them throughout their adventures as a member of the wider order. The bond that a Jedi would build with his or her saber was considered to be sacred, and though the Jedi are forbidden from forming attachments and are encouraged to give up their worldly possessions in service of the Force, the lightsaber is perhaps the most personal attachment they are allowed to have, and many build a sort of connection with their respective weapons. While there are many cases wherein Jedi have had to construct new sabers over the course of their tenure, have there been instances wherein Jedi has been willing to trade their sacred weapon to another member of the Order? And what exactly does this mean? Surprisingly, not only has this occurred on numerous occasions, but it was actually common practice to embrace the tradition known as the Concordance of fealty, wherein just such an exchange would take place. So stick with us, weary travelers of the galaxy, and let's discuss some of the most fascinating aspects of this practice, including what it entailed and meant, as well as who in the Order had partaken in this tradition, and the real-world motivation for the creation of such a tradition within the Star Wars mythos. The Concordance of fealty was a Jedi tradition that was held between two trusted members of the Order, wherein the participants would conduct a show of faith and trust by surrendering each other's sabers to one another. This was deemed as one of the strongest shows of faith that a knight could show to their comrade and partner, as trading weapons with another member of the Order was seen as an incredibly intimate sign of trust, and bonded two Jedi Knights in question within the fabric of the Force itself. Some of the best known practitioners of this tradition were Mace Windu, who traded sabers with Eth Koth before the events of the Clone Wars came to pass, and even Obi-Wan Kenobi himself took part in the tradition as a Padawan learner, with his original saber before it was lost on Naboo at the hands of Darth Maul. Obi-Wan traded sabers for a time with his Jedi Master Qui-Gon as a sign of faith between the Master and the apprentice, as contrary to popular belief, both Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon did butt heads quite frequently over their tenure as a Jedi Knight learner and a Jedi Knight, with Obi-Wan Kenobi believing that Qui-Gon was far too rogue, and Qui-Gon believing that they should follow the will of the Force rather than the larger conducts of the Order. This led to multiple disagreements with one another, and eventually they decided to trade lightsabers in an effort to grow the bond with one another, a practice that was eventually widely successful as the two became great friends, and Obi-Wan would consider Qui-Gon one of the greatest Jedi to have ever lived. This would strengthen their bond until Jin's eventual defeat and death on Naboo in the very same battle with Darth Maul that would cost Kenobi his Padawan saber. While this is an incredibly interesting facet of the Star Wars mythos, perhaps that is even more interesting is the motivation for the external creation of such a practice, and why it was written into Star Wars lore in the first place. The real-world circumstances in which this arose, however, came from a series of continuity errors and retcons within the Star Wars universe, and goes back to the release of The Phantom Menace in 1999. In the film itself, we only see a few principal Jedi wield sabers in combat, including Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan Kenobi, though the promotional material associated with the project took advantage of the introduction of multiple members of the Jedi Order and their lightsabers. Seeing as this was the first live-action Star Wars cinematic project since the original trilogy, this is where most of the members of the Jedi Council made their initial debut, including the now legendary Jedi Master Mace Windu. The promotional material surrounding Windu's debut, including toys released around the time of the film, depicted him having a blue lightsaber with a very distinct hilt that is not the one he is most well known for. Upon development of Attack of the Clones, however, George Lucas and the Star Wars executive team decided that it was time to see Windu and various other Jedi Knights in action. When this time eventually came around, Lucas extended the offer of lightsaber colors to individual actors, wherein Samuel L. Jackson asked specifically for a purple blade so that he could find himself during the Battle of Geonosis, a story that's quite famous now, a wish that Lucas later granted, gifting Jackson and thus Windu the iconic amethyst blade that he is now so well known for. This, however, warranted a retcon for the past 3 years wherein Windu had been depicted with a standard blue saber rather than the uniquely iconic purple blade that he has long been since known for and become synonymous with. The answer to this retcon later developed into the Concordance of Fealty, which was developed as a symbolic answer to why Mace Windu had such a different lightsaber in the material leading up to Attack of the Clones, and the original hilt was repurposed for Jedi Master Eth Koth, who would serve alongside Windu throughout the Clone Wars and even survived Order 66 and lived in the shadow of the Empire for a number of years, until his eventual execution at the hands of none other than Darth Vader. Though most of Koth's on-screen material is relegated to supporting roles and minor cameos, the comic material and expanded content fleshes out his character and his relationship with Windu in depth, and the practice of the Concordance of Fealty became a common practice among Jedi Knights. Alongside Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, other masters who participated in this practice included Anakin Skywalker, who entrusted Halagad Venator with the legendary Skywalker saber for a time as another retcon to differentiate Anakin Skywalker from Darth Vader in the comic Star Wars Annual 1977, which depicts the Battle of Skyne. But that is the explanation of the Concordance of Fealty, and what happens when Jedi exchange lightsabers with one another. As Obi-Wan tells Anakin in Attack of the Clones, a Jedi's lightsaber is their life, and by exchanging lightsabers with someone close to them who they are attempting to form a stronger bond with, or simply as a sign of complete and utter trust, it meant a lot to the Jedi, as again, the lightsaber was a very extension of themselves. Again, as we covered in this video, this has only occurred 3 times that we know of in Star Wars Legends, with Mace Windu and Eth Koth, Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon Jinn, and again with Anakin Skywalker with Halagad Ventor. The only 3 times in Legends that this action is ever depicted. But anyway, my friends, what are your thoughts on this? And what are your thoughts on this exchange of Jedi lightsabers between one another? Did you know about the Concordance of Fealty before this video? And what are your thoughts on it now that you know more? If you would like to stay up to date with everything Star Wars related from lore to news as soon as it breaks, force push that subscribe button, and I hope to see you in the next video.